Hi there, I'm Ross Balch from Cosmic Crucible Studio, and I thought today I would just give my first impressions of the new Get Good Drums Studio Cabs plugin, Contenders Round 1. I'm a big fan of these plugins. I actually have all of the others, so it's like Zilla Cabs, Kali, and Goldstack. And I'm not being paid to do this video or anything. I literally just bought this plugin today as soon as I found out it got released, because I'm a huge fan of these plugins, as I said. And I think rather than just sort of waffle on in the intro, let's just get right into the sounds and the things you can do with this new plugin. So let's just explain my signal chain here a little bit. It's very simple. I have Bertum Denoise Classic here at the start, just to get rid of some noise. If I turn this off, you can see that there's a lot of noise in this room. And then at the end, I have this gate that is sidechained from the tuner signal. So it's sort of a 4-cable method, but in the box to gate the signal. And then I just have 3 instances of NAM here. And these are all using captures that I've created, and they're available on ToneHunt for free. If you go to my Cosmic Crucible profile, I have this Friedman BEOD kind of punk setting. I have this Mesa Boogie Dual Rectifier, like Nevermore settings, and then this Orange Rocker 15 with a Fortin grind in front in this sort of modern, like gent setting, just so we can explore a little bit all these different genres and how the cabs work. So let's go to the new Studio Contenders plugin. And this is what it's like at default. And it kind of sounds a bit like this. Not very punky there, but we'll get to that in a second. So what I really like is that this new plugin has quite a few different cabs. And what I like is that obviously some of them are a bit different to sort of the normal stuff. You've got these Marshall type ones, the Mesa traditional, so not oversized in this case, the traditional cab. But we also have a Friedman, an Orange. I forget what Uber is, but obviously we've got this Engel as well. They all sound quite different, which is nice, of course, because they all have different dimensions. The mics, you have the sort of usual suspects, I would say. The SM7B, probably a little less common in terms of guitar cabs, and the KM140 as well. But, you have the things that you would expect, right? You have the SM57, the 421, the C414, and the Roya, of course, the 121. And because these are all phase aligned, it's really easy to mix and match. I like to do that based on what I'm trying to achieve. So if I want a detailed sound, or I want a sound for double tracking that I want to sit back a bit, I tend to actually use different cab mixers for that. And this is what I like about Studio Cabs. It makes that super easy. And in some ways, these cabs almost sound too good. Like, they've been captured so well that they almost don't sound as good as some of the other professionally recorded cabs that I've heard on like real tracks in stems and stuff. And I think for some of that, I think for some people, it would almost not be authentic enough in that it's too well captured. But let's have a quick look. So we're going to start off with the sort of, these like punk settings that I've got. And, this Marshall cab already is so good for this, just with the SM57, So that works really well. It's just a very classic sound. We could go to this TV. I mean, to me, that's just the classic sound of punk. And I'm going to admit, I haven't fully remembered or memorized all of the different speakers that are in these cabs. They are explained, I think, on a video on the Get Good channel. So I do recommend you look at that if you like. But I think for the Marshall ones, there are some with the classic T75, the Marshall speaker, essentially. And there are some with gold backs. I feel like this might be the T75 because it's called the TV. And I think you can just see how the cab makes such a big difference. Like, to me, this is the sound of pop punk and punk rock, right? This exact sound. But if we move over now to like the Mesa and do the same thing, it's going to sound not quite as punky, I would say. Like, it's a lot more focused and mid-rangey in a way that this one has that sort of pop punk fizz, So yeah, already, you know, I think I really like this. And I think what we'll see in a second is an interesting feature. So we can go to the orange here, and maybe we'll try something a bit more sizzly. Maybe this one. And you can see that we can sort of blend these in, right? So if we go, got nothing, and then we can just sort of decide. But one of the interesting things is if we were to solo one of these now, it's quite quiet. But if I was to clear this, you see how it's louder now? And I think that's to avoid clipping the output. And I think that's really good as you're blending cabs, but it can be a little annoying when you want to solo the sound and figure out what it's really contributing to the stack. So that's something to be aware of. You know, there are pluses and minuses to that approach. But I do like that we have these sort of slightly more common, you know, there are so many Messer and Marshall cabs. It's kind of nice to have, even though these are still quite common, some others as well. So we have this Friedman cab here, and we can have a look. Let's go with like an unusual combination, right? This KM140. If we go to the old sort of trusty and see what we're getting there. It's funny really, because the KM really just sounds like a more like full microphone to me. It's quite even in its response. Perhaps being like a little scooped, but yeah, it's actually really cool. And like the orange has its own kind of thing going on. But I do quite like that. I mean, I think the thing is that this Friedman just sounds really good with almost anything, which is, it's kind of hard to show the different things going on here. But like this Engel cab, for instance, is quite bassy. Which I guess the SM57 isn't the best one for that. Like the SM7B has a bit more oomph. You can kind of hear that there. But I think that works really well. And I think for punk rock, you'll be really happy with this. Definitely more so than, say, the Cali. I thought the Gold Stack was really good for punk rock as well. But now let's actually get the Mesa Boogie here going. And let's just reset this back to factory and just get the default sound again. Oh, that's kind of the Marshall sound. I guess the Mesa traditional would be like the sound here, wouldn't it? Yeah, and that just sounds really gnarly. Like for me, I like to sort of, I often use the SM57 as my main sound, and then I'll go for something with a bit more like articulation for the rest. I mean, what does this, let's see what this Uber cab sounds like. We'll solo it up. But let's get like a C. I really often like the C14. I find it's quite an articulate mic. But it almost sounds a little congested by itself. But once we mix it in a little bit with the SM57, like that's kind of awesome for me. And then something with a bit of boom, right? So we'll go for this Engel cab with the R21, the 121. But like probably start it around -4. You can really get out of hand with the R20, you know, the 121. Maybe we'll go for the 421. And see how we go with this. Like, to me, that's so good. Like, you can really hear like all of the... Yeah, for me, that's just such an awesome sound. Maybe it's not for you, but I really think that these kind of blends make it so easy to get a sound that just cuts in a really pleasing way and just really showcases the sound of the guitar and the amp. And I think another cool thing is that you have this master EQ. So we'll play a little bit again of the sound, and then we'll put in the master EQ. And the point of the master EQ is to sort of mix ready them up a little bit and get rid of some of the spikier frequencies. And like, you can see that sounds a lot smoother. We've lost a bit of the top end. You know, I think there's been a bit of low passing there. And maybe because of that, we actually want to brighten up our sort of bright microphone a little bit to get some of that clarity back. Which, yeah, awesome. Like, I think there's so much variety here in the type of cabs that you can use, that you could literally get any kind of sound here. So let me change guitar now, and we'll see how it goes with the sort of colored room djenting sound. All right, I'm back now, and I have this Solar baritone. I think it's in A or something like that. I actually haven't really messed with it too much yet, but it should be able to demonstrate for us what's going on. So let's have a look. Let's like say a Friedman, because I know Friedmans have that sort of djenty sound, don't they? And for this, again, just to remind you, we're using the Orange Rocketera 15 being boosted by a Fortin grind. You wouldn't think this is a super djenty amp, but I actually love the mid-range of this amp for this kind of stuff. So like, to me, that just sounds great off the bat. And let's see what else we can put with it. So the Marshall AV, let's see. So the TV gets a bit of a bad rap, doesn't it? The T75. So let's see if we can get something interesting out of it. So what does this sound like by itself? And then maybe if we just try blending this into like 2 there. Maybe try a sort of more SM57. And I reckon for a genre like this, you don't want it to be too boomy. So let's try the SM7B, and maybe let's try the MD121. And the SM7B can kind of be the bottom end. I know the orange one tends to have like a really nice low end, so... Which, yeah, I actually think that works really nicely. So it doesn't get out of hand. Obviously, the grind in front of the amp, the orange, is really helping tighten up the low end already. But I think these cabs just work really well, and they're so versatile. I think it's really hard to go wrong. In fact, having used all of them, I think even though I've only had this like for a day, I'm actually quite confident in saying that if you want to get started with the studio cabs, like the Get Good ones, I would actually start with this Contenders one, because I think this one actually represents like the best, most versatile for a lot of genres. Zilla's really good, but in some ways, like I don't find myself reaching for it that often, whereas this has such a good variety of sounds in really classic like cabs, and they're so well captured. I think this is the one you start with. Like Cali's really good and it does that thing really well, and so does Goldstack. Like if you want to play like Motley Crue or AC/DC, Goldstack is amazing. But I think this will get you there too. So if you actually want to get started, I think this is the one I would recommend, and I'm looking forward to using this on some records.